All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of the Vendo webinar. Very excited for today's topic. We'll do some brief intros, then we will dive into all things AMC with our resident expert, Matan Laredo, the Director of Amazon Advertising. But briefly, my name is Gefen. I'm the SVP of Advertising at Vendo. For those of you that don't know, we run multiple different advertising services in addition to or full service management on Amazon and Walmart, along with paid search and social, retail media, as well as programmatic too. Tom, want to do a brief intro, then we'll dive in.
Yeah, my name is Matan. I'm the director of Amazon advertising here at Venda. So that's overseeing everything DSP, AMC, PPC related. Um, been with Venda for about 4 years now, and I've really taken a liking to specifically AMC and the capabilities there. So I'm super excited to talk about that today.
Awesome. So let's dive in. So I guess to start, I mean, I'd assume that most people who are on this webinar at least have heard of AMC or are curious. So Matan, if you want to give a brief, just 2 minute background on what is AMC?
Yeah. So in short, AMC is Amazon's data clean room where they host all of your ad data and now organic data as well. So what that means is they're combining all of the data that they have from your sponsored ads campaigns, from your DSP campaigns, and organic data as well into one place where you can run analytics across all of those and really um, blend the data gaps between the different ad products and organic data as well.
Perfect. And I guess in a practical term, um, how do brands or agencies or sellers, use it? Like the end goal.
I mean, the end goal is to really understand like your full funnel uh, customer journey and that behavior across the journey. And then also how you can actually action on that. And so using it as both a resource for audience creation and a resource for analytics, you can essentially use the analytics to find whatever piece of data you want. And then use the audiences to action on that piece of data.
Yeah, and I think I mean that's a good segue. We have a couple of topics to talk about today. We're going to talk about how AMC can help create audiences, how it contributes to analytics, what its current capabilities are, and then what we believe the future of AMC is. But diving into audiences, I mean, you know, as as you mentioned, it is a clean house, and essentially with either a little bit of coding or a little bit of understanding of how Amazon has structured what they call instances or queries. Um, it's we can build out behavioral based and kind of very specific information input based audiences that we can then utilize in our DSP campaign. So can you walk us through, I guess, a little bit maybe what an example of that would look like
Yeah. So
and then maybe what the flow is?
yeah. So backtrack a little bit. Um, with their new generative AI audiences, you don't need to know any coding to generate these AMC audiences, um, which has been a huge development over the past 12 months. Because I mean, before to your point, Geffen, you did need to know coding. You did need to know how to put these audiences together. Now you can basically think it into existence, and that's been one of the most impactful, I think, changes that they've added in the past year or so. Um, and that's been super interesting to see. I mean, on top of that, you can use those audiences for AMC. I mean, for DSP, you can use those audiences for PPC. Um, and the way you use them varies across those platforms as well. So, I mean, I can get into some of the audiences that we've been
Yeah, I think
utilizing.
that'll be good.
Yeah, cool. So I'd say some of the lowest hanging fruit are going to be your cart abandoners. Um, the only way to get that audience is through AMC, and we know the power of that audience and really what it can do. Um, so that's the audience where I would say we've had the most success, but I would highly recommend, as with every audience, testing out multiple look back windows there. Um, and then that audience we've actually found success with on both DSP as a direct targeting and then on your sponsored ads as well as a bid modifier. Um, and so using on your non-branded campaigns, if someone is a cart abandoner, you want to bid more on that person. Another
So
cool audience. Oh, sorry.
well, yeah, let's stick on that for a second. So I think it's important because this example kind of ties in the what AMC can offer. So essentially, what we're doing is we can now look at anybody who has abandoned a cart. We know that their intent is high. We know that we can follow up with them. And we know that at some point, especially if it's a recent cart abandoner, which we can customize to have any time parameter on, we can hit them while we can strike while the iron's hot. So, Matan, what type of ads can that audience be used in? Is it just exported to DSP, or are there other or other ad types as well?
Sponsored ads as well.
That's big. So can you talk a little bit about the sponsor ads? Because there aren't, I mean, not every seller is running DSP. Not every seller has access to self-serve DSP, but everybody has access to sponsored products. So how does one import an audience into sponsored products, and where does then that show?
It's the same as doing it into DSP. It's the exact same process. It's just you click a button that it'll ask you your destination, whether you want it to go to the DSP or your sponsored ads, and that's ultimately where you choose it.
Got it. So that's a really big, I would say, update. And I think that probably came around over the last, I mean, definitely over the last 12 months, so maybe 6 months as well. It's fairly recent,
I think that was announced. It was announced at Unbox last year, so
last year.
October.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
it's like 6 to 7 months, maybe a bit more. Um, that's really big. So I think for everybody listening, I think one thing that is different than historically the way that we've talked about audiences is sponsored products has audience features now. And clearly they have customizable audience features too. And so what that now allows you to do is layer on top of your keyword targeting, audience targeting as well to be more granular. And so add to cart, as Matan mentioned, is just one type of audience. But as you can imagine, there's a set of low-hanging fruit that you can bring in that can significantly enhance your targeting capabilities on a fairly basic level.
yeah, so I can go into a couple more of those audiences. Another really effective one we've found is people who have viewed your PDP multiple times and have not purchased. So before, if you were doing views retargeting, it would just be people who viewed your PDP once. Now I can say, hey, people who have come back 2 or 3 times or more, I want to target those people, um, which is super beneficial because that indicates that they have higher intent to purchase and you want to get them. Uh, Also, another cool audience is if you have a brand that has a repurchasable and a big subscription based brand, you can create audiences of people who have bought twice or more and are not enrolled in Subscribe and Save. So that could really help boost your Subscribe and Save enrollment rates. And that one I'd say works best on DSP because you in the creative you can control the messaging about Subscribe and Save. Uh, Sponsor products. I mean, one good audience there is people who've clicked on sponsored products in the last 7 days and have not purchased in the last year. So you could bid more on those people. People who clicked on a non-branded campaign and did not purchase. Um, and then you can get super granular with these audiences if you want to use the AI and the AI generator. And that's you could build stuff like people who saw an STV ad and then subsequently made a branded search and have not purchased. And you can tack on whatever you want to that and viewed a sponsored product ad or and had 3 or more DSP impressions served to them. Um, you could do it based on review as well. So people who left a review on ASIN X but have not purchased ASIN Y. So if you have someone who leaves reviews, you want them to leave a review on another one of your products. That's how you could do it. Uh, Another cool audience feature is definitely the Prime Day purchasers through the high value audiences solution. That I think we like to use that on every tentpole event because just leveraging our audiences from the last tentpole events, and then you could take the top 5% of those and create lookalike audiences, which is something I haven't touched on yet, but you can create lookalike audiences for any of the audiences we have named thus far. So any audience you can think of, you can also create lookalike audiences for them. Um,
That's
and
great.
then for brands that are super giftable and have big Q4, big Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas, you could target people who have added products to their wish list or registry and go after those people.
As you can see, there's a million audiences to create. And I think that the value add of an agency like Vendo is, you know, we're in the back end day in and day out, just experimenting, right? There's really kind of an endless array of different audiences that you can bring in. And essentially, from an action-oriented standpoint, as you can see, audience creation is a very crucial part of um, of AMC. But moving on, it's not the only thing that we can do. Analytics is another one. And analytics is a little bit more integrated into the current Amazon ads UI, which we'll talk about in a bit. But Matan, so we know we can create audiences. Um, what can we analyze?
Everything. And yeah, so you could analyze literally anything you want, but to get into more specifics, I'll touch on kind of a few reports and how they can be used, how they could benefit you, and some are definitely more actionable than others. So you have like your data validation reports, like is my stuff working? Are my ads working? And then you have your actual like actionable reports, which is like, okay, based off this report, I can take this action. And so for one of the most commonly used analytics is path to conversion. Um, and I'm sure everyone's heard of this a lot. But how it's being used, I don't think is 100% correct. I mean, we really like to use it to get first touch and last touch ROAS by ad type. We think that looking at that, we can better determine at what stage of the funnel we should be using what ad type. Uh, so obviously, like if we're running a streaming TV campaign, I'm going to use that path to conversion analysis to look at my first touch ROAS. And that's for any awareness campaign for that matter. Why is because I want to look at if someone views my TV ad and then purchases on a sponsored products ad or purchases on a sponsored brand ad, I want the TV ad to still get some of that credit, you know. And the way Amazon ads are structured, it's only last touch uh, attribution, only last touch ROAS. That means that STV ad wouldn't get any attribution typically, and neither would any of your awareness ads. So a lot of times people say, "Oh, my awareness ads, they have such a low ROAS. I'm going to pause them." Well, that's because a lot of times it's your other campaigns that are getting the attribution. Your other campaigns are getting attribution for your awareness campaigns. Um, and path to conversion is really a way to quantify, okay, how much conversion is my awareness campaign driving at the end of the day? Um, and so that's when like we talk about those full funnel analytics and how you can really bridge the gap.
Yeah, so this is a really important distinction. So we have one capability for audience creation, one capability for analytics. Analytics, obviously, as Matan mentioned, we can pull a lot of data, but if you look inside your Amazon UI, for most of you, if not all of you, when you open up the Amazon PPC console, you'll see up in the graph on the top on the left side, you'll see a few different analytics potentially that Amazon might be testing out on you or a group of sellers. So they might be showing something called a path to purchase, right? And Matan just walked through that. Amazon is already integrating a lot of that data for sellers into the general UI, so you don't have to do any work. And as Matan mentioned, the path to purchase is, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but what it allows you to do is at a very high level, you can just look at your general marketing mix and look at how many dollars you're investing to add product A, add product B, add product C, and whether or not there needs to be some type of reallocation. So if somebody who's exposed to a DSP ad first converts 3 times higher than somebody who was not exposed to any DSP ad, then you know that DSP has value. And as Matan mentioned, you get to decide how you want to weight that, or you can just increase your budget towards that specific ad product. So there's an immense amount of data we can pull, and what a lot of people do as well is you can pull keyword specific data, you can pull product specific data, you can pull time of day, you can pull CPCs, right? Any metric that you would like on as far as ad metrics go. So if you want to pull PPC, excuse me, CPC by the hour, if you want to pull CPC by the day or month, if you want to aggregate data over time, um, those types of things that get into the more complex aspects of AMC do require a little bit of SQL coding, less and less, but they do require a bit of SQL coding in that the instances aren't coded out always. They have some preset instances like path to purchase and other ones that you are going to have to, or excuse me, queries or other ones that you're going to have to kind of code yourself or have somebody code for you. We do that for brands. And yeah, Matan, do we miss anything on analytics?
A lot. A lot, but that's what we're about to go through. So couple things there. You talked about path to conversion being available in the ad console as opposed to just AMC.
Hmm.
Um, so wanted to caveat that by saying they actually have different methodologies for path to conversion in the ad console versus path to conversion within AMC, which I think is ludicrous and kind of absurd. I think they should have the same methodology. But for those who don't know the differences, let me walk you through it real quick. So path to conversion in the ad console is a 30-day attributed conversion, whereas within AMC, it's 14-day. Um, and then another difference is in the ad console, traffic included is always a 30-day look back from the date of conversion. Um, Whereas in AMC, it's included based on the window. So based on the window you're pulling. Um, in AMC, you have a max of 500 campaigns that you can include if you want to do a campaign level path to conversion. Um, in the ad console, it's only brand level. And so that's another difference there. And in terms of other analytics, there's quite a few other reports as well. So there's the overlap report, which is not as actionable, but like I said, is more of data validation and will show you the impact of each ad product. Um, and then there's also a more actionable report, in my opinion, the most actionable report is the new to brand report. So that basically tells you by campaign your customer acquisition cost and new to brand ROAS. And what I really like that about that is because is that it shows you which campaigns are actually bringing in new customers, not just which campaigns have the highest ROAS. Because what we see a lot of times in that new to brand report is that there are brands who will have campaigns that have a very high ROAS on the non-branded side, but very low new to brand rates, which leads to a high customer acquisition cost and a low new to brand ROAS. And ultimately, we end up shifting budget away from those campaigns. So that's probably the most actionable report. Um, Another data validation report is non-branded to branded path to conversion. So looking at people who went from non-branded campaigns to branded campaigns and converted on those branded campaigns. That is really where we feel like validates a lot of the non-branded advertising that you do. And what we find is that a very high percentage of branded sales from your branded campaigns are coming from non-branded clicks and people transitioning over to those branded campaigns. So that kind of validates what you're doing on the non-branded side, saying, okay, hey, it's actually leading to sales. And you can do that on a campaign level as well. And then I would say the last report that we really like to use a lot is the frequency deep dive. Basically shows you how you're performing in each frequency bucket. So if someone's exposed once versus twice versus three times, so on and so forth, what that performance looks like. And you get things like purchase rate, new to brand rate, branded searches, branded search rate, the whole 9 yards. And so that has been a super valuable report for us as well.
It's actually really insightful. There's so much. Um, is there anything else that AMC can do? I mean, audiences and analytics.
So
Are there any like other primary or secondary use cases?
no, I would say it's mainly audiences and analytics. What we haven't really touched on is there's a lot of organic data you can get. Um, so non-ad related data to basically show, okay, how do people perform? How does a customer perform if they're exposed to ads versus if they're not exposed to ads? Um, that data still is behind like a paywall. You have to pay for it. Uh, but I'd imagine with time that'll become more accessible for you.
Yeah, I mean Amazon does have paywalls around a few things, but I think that the gist and what to take away just as far as the use cases here is I would honestly put, I mean, it's both. There's a lot of analytics that are readily available at your guys' fingertips. So analytics themselves are really low-hanging fruit, especially the easy ones, as Matan mentioned, to kind of get familiarized with what AMC is. Uh, and then the audience creation again, I think that there's a lot of complexity coming into the Amazon advertising space now and in the near and long-term future around the way that they're going to be layering on behavioral and demographic data as well as AMC audience creation on top of our keyword targeting, which is going to uh, well, it's interesting. It might lead to higher CPCs based on specific categories that we're targeting, but it might also segment or prevent other people who are not using AMC uh, from accessing different data types because or different search queries or impressions because they are getting outbid by a higher relevance product or advertiser. So I think that staying ahead of the curve with AMC is important, not because you get more information, you can perform better, but as the algorithm starts to integrate layered relevance on a more granular and more sophisticated level, those brands and sellers that are engaging with AMC and using it towards even their PPC alone, not even talking DSP, are going to have a bit of a leg up moving into the next year. So I think that that's something that most sellers, especially if you guys are listening to this, should take away is that in some capacity, audience creation should be part of your day-to-day uh, process. And then you'll find that when you integrate and really expand on the analytics portion, you're going to be able to action, as Matan mentioned, action on some different budget settings that can, or budget allocations that can really enhance your performance. Which I think is a good transition, Matan, into the future of AMC. So,
Yeah.
so what do we think is, or where is it going?
It's all going to be AI generated queries. You're not going to have to do any code, I think, within the next 6 to 12 months. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we'll see, and that's really going to open the floodgates for AMC. I mean, Amazon, I think to this point has seen a slightly lower adoption than they had expected, and that I think is because of brands are struggling to adopt it. I think us from an agency and an expert perspective, it's easier for us to adopt it because we live and breathe this. But for a brand, a brand manager who might be managing Amazon, Walmart, Target, and five other retail channels for a brand, they're not going to have the time to understand AMC that much. So eventually they don't need to understand it at all if you have AI queries, right? And AI generated queries. So I could just say, hey, can you pull this report that does X, Y, and Z and looks at X, Y, and Z? And it'll just generate it for me. So I think that is what we're going to see. I think we're going to see more data at a cheaper price. Um, and I also think we're going to see AI implementation of audiences. So generating an audience and saying, hey, apply this to all campaigns that meet these criteria. I think that's going to be a thing as well. And so I'm really excited for that because I think that, like I said earlier, that that's just going to open the floodgates for AMC.
That's big. Um, and again, that I think that one thing that Amazon is going to be looking to do is that enhance and increase integration with their current setup. So continued um, kind of enmeshment of capabilities one thing as we move into an AI boom, as we move into agentic AI, it'll be interesting to see if Amazon is going to roll out potentially some form of agent or some form of AI on the seller or backend side that can allow you to utilize AMC a little bit more seamlessly, so it can create queries pretty quickly. My guess is knowing how capable other AI coders are, like Cursor. Amazon probably has the capability today to do it, but it'll probably be a little while before they do. Um,
Well,
but
they have it for the audiences,
they have an agentic AI for that?
like to implement.
Yes.
No, not to implement, just to generate the queries.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
That's great. So I mean, with this AI boom, it's like you talk about it and it already happened 3 seconds ago. So, um, yeah, I think that it's going to be moving into increased integration, increased enmeshment into the software and the algorithm. Um, and then as Matan mentioned, from a capability standpoint, they have all the data, they've had all the data. This is them beginning to action on the data. What's going to happen over the next, you know, um, 1, 2, 3 years? We don't know, but at the very least, we know that they're going to be moving very quickly because it's a primary focus. And we can tell you that at Unbox last year, AMC was the buzzword. Um, Curious to see what the buzzword's going to be this year. I mean, AI obviously is going to be a big one, but it'll be interesting to see if they harp on AMC as aggressively as before. Um, or if they push to something else. But regardless, it's here to stay. It's powerful, it's robust, and it can provide you guys with a lot of information and data that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get.
Yeah, we got some questions in the chat for the Q&A, and if anyone wants to add more questions, please send them in. Um,
Perfect.
so we have, where is AMC headed in the next couple of years? I think we kind of just answered that a
Yeah.
little bit, which is just like a lot more AI based querying, and AI based implementation, larger look back windows. So they just extended the look back window on purchasers to 5 years, which is huge. And so I think they might just keep pushing that back and keep increasing the amount of data you have access to. Another question: how can I start using AMC if I can't code? Um, I mean, they have a lot of analytics and audiences that are no code required. So if you open AMC, there's actually a button that says no code. You click on that and it'll filter for everything you can use without code, without knowing how to code. Um, and if and let's say you have a little bit of coding experience, but not a lot. I mean, you can try to use AIs out there to the existing AIs to code it for you and code these queries for you. However, that's a lot more difficult. You have to really teach the AI how to do it. So that's something that I would be cautious of.
Amazing. Well, that wraps up 30 minutes. I think that we covered a good amount of AMC. Um, I guess to close it out, Anton, what are you most excited about with AMC?
I would say just really just being able to look at any piece of data you want in it once that AI becomes available. I mean, you're really going to be able to dissect data and add data in a way that's not possible on any other ad platform or any other ad ecosystem. No one has the level of data that Amazon has, and so to be able to tie it all together is going to be really, I think, what sets Amazon apart from every other ad provider long term.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that the capability of AMC, unless any other of these advertisers really come out with a clean room in the way that AMC and Amazon have, it sets them apart. And the audience, as well as the demographic, as well as the behavioral capabilities, not to mention the analytics, makes it an incredibly powerful tool that you should be utilizing. Um, and obviously we are, so please feel free to reach out via email.
One
Um,
last question in the chat.
oh
We just got
yes.
one more. How do you access the AMC platform if you haven't used it before? Um, to my knowledge, you can only access it through a verified partner, um, which, for example, Vendo or an agency would be a verified partner. Um, I know Amazon has been changing their policy on that quite a bit. So they might have made it more accessible at this point. But I know previously that it was only for agency or Amazon partners. If you're not working with a partner, definitely reach out to one. If you have an AE or someone who works at Amazon that you have a rep there, reach out to them and they can help you get set up as well.
Perfect. Matan, thank you for joining. I think this was really insightful.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Everybody, thank you as well for joining. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, any follow-ups. If you want to talk how we can help manage your AMC, please let us know. We'd be happy to have a conversation. And we're looking forward to the next installment of the Vendo webinar. Thank you, everybody.